Hey, what up, people of Earth? This is the homie Pedro. Um, here to talk about Stockholm syndrome in a relationship. So, as y'all may know, if you've been following my channel, I was gonna go and speak at the Capitol. Didn't get to happen. I was sick anyways. I know that's like minimalizing and all that stuff, but talking about domestic violence and men who suffer from this, they usually have Stockholm syndrome. They don't realize it. I'm gonna talk to y'all about it, how I went through it in my past with my son's mom. Um, so first off, I was isolated from my family. Because I was trying to make things work. We lived together. I wasn't on a lease because my robbery conviction, and otherwise we couldn't have lived there. And almost right away the control issues started happening. It was like night and day, from when I was around my family to not around my family. Stockholm syndrome is someone who sympathizes with their captors. It was originated, I think, after the town Stockholm, because there was like a bank robbery incident, where these people were all released and they refused to snitch out on the bank robbers. And but yeah, there's certain things that happen throughout Stockholm syndrome, like physical abuse, stuff like that. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. That's why often in relationships, you will hear people, you'll hear people be like, oh, he's gonna change, or oh, she's gonna change. He didn't really mean it. She didn't really mean it. And I knew a guy. He was in a really abusive relationship, and other guys would kind of clown on him, like, dude, why don't you get away, blah blah blah, like, oh my gosh, blah blah blah. And then some people were really serious, like, dude, you should get away from that relationship. I didn't know how bad it was. He went to sleep, and she was mad and took his life. So yeah, but yeah, people always warn him about that. And I remember the way I felt. So if you think you might be in a relationship with Stockholm syndrome and you got Stockholm syndrome from this, ask yourself this: how is your self esteem? Like, if your self esteem is, if you normally are like a self conscious person, like I'm self conscious a lot of times, but like I'm talking like you really, really lack self esteem, you might be in an abusive relationship. If you feel like you have no pull on anything, like you can't do this without asking for permission to do whatever, like that's, chances are you're in an abusive relationship. If there's certain threats, so like females, what I've noticed, like my sister was in an abusive relationship and I beat the heck out of that dude, and yeah, swelled both of his eyes shut. It was bad. But it's because he swole her eye, so I was like, I just figured, swole both of his eyes. But anyways, men are more physical from what I've noticed, though, but either way, your mental, it just takes a toll on you. You wake up, you just feel like you're not enough. I remember my ex, she would always be like, I'm not gonna let you see your kids. I'm not gonna let you see your kids. Or she would lock me out, and it would be winter time, and then I had to wake up and go to work. And I remember kind of touched on this when I was like, men suffer from domestic violence too. When I went to the domestic violence class, it was court ordered, and the lady told me, she's like, look, it's in my opinion that I think that you're the victim. She even told the court that. So that's what got my case discharged or dismissed. Um, Still had to pay for the class though, which was weird. But I remember when she told me, I didn't believe her. I was like, nah, nah. I was in such disbelief because I'm like, nah, I'm an MMA fighter. Like, there's no way this can happen to me. And I've seen it happen to some of the best people. And that's another thing. If you're a giver, if you naturally like giving things to people, unfortunately, you're more likely to become a victim of something like this because a parasite will just hook onto you like nothing. You know what I mean? Like oh, that's easy. I don't even really have to ask this person that much. And then that's when the isolation from family, friends, certain things, it happens very slow. This doesn't happen right away. And then next thing you know, they might control your money. I remember my son's mom would always make me give her. I would give her my whole check. It's so crazy. I would give her my whole check just so she didn't take my son away because she had known that happened to me in the past with my older son. So she would just right there and um but she was free to spend whatever. You know what I mean? I just didn't want that to happen. And then once once I found out that she was cheating, and then she called the cops. I talked about that in my first video, where I punched my own TV. Then she was like, "Oh, there's this other thing I could do. I could just call the cops and get him in trouble." But yeah, there's there's some serious healing that I had to go through because I really believed that wasn't enough. And I remember it was about 2 years I didn't see my siblings or my dad, my mom, anybody. And when I went around them, they were like, what's wrong with you?" Because they, for me, it was nothing that happened because it was that slow poison. But for them, they were just like, "Dude, like, where you at, man? Like, what? Like, you're always upbeat. You're always making people laugh, you know." And then I was like, "Nah," I was just down on myself. I thought I couldn't cook. And then they're like, "Okay, well, try to make something." And I made pho in a it's a Vietnamese dish, pho pho. Yeah, I made it in a slow cooker, and pan seared food, all that stuff. It came out dope. And Burmese noodles, I think that's how you pronounce it. Um, but yeah, it came out really good. And I remember my family, they're like, "Wow, this is really good." I'm like, "Really?" Like, because I was used to just your food's terrible, everything's terrible, no matter what I do is terrible. I'm a terrible human being. And then I started believing it. I started believing it. And it took a while for me to get away from that. And when I did, when I totally cut myself away from her, she alienated me from my son for 6 years. She stayed to her word. Um, but it took a lot for me to forgive her. But the first thing I had to do was take accountability for some of my other actions. So that being said, man, if y'all think you're going through Stockholm syndrome, just look for those things. Are they controlling? Is this individual controlling? Male or female? Are they really controlling? Like they're going to try to control your time, your finances. They're going to isolate you from your family. They're going to demean you. They're going to try to control the way you feel about yourself. These are huge things. And then will they love bomb you afterwards? So they'll love bomb you like, "Oh yeah, you do," but they'll still keep that control. Like, "Oh, it's like good boy, good boy, that type of deal." And is it a two-way street? Is it a two-way street? Is it are are you in a healthy relationship? Because like with my fiance and I mean, we have our ups and downs, but there's never been a time where she's like, "No, you have to stay here and do that." Hell no. Um, but yeah, is it a two-way street? Are you giving and taking, or whatever, or is it just are you just give, just so you don't face the repercussions? Because if you are, get out as soon as possible because it's only gonna hurt your self-esteem more. And that's coming from someone who that's happened to. So I'm not judging you or nothing like that. But anyways, for Pete's sake, like, share, subscribe. Maybe someone's going through the same thing. Until then, one love, peace out, stay safe. Keep away from the parasites.